How would you see weather changing in the future? I mean, obviously, global warming, worse storms, worse hurricanes, bigger tornadoes, kind of bigger blizzards. Everything is just getting intensified and magnified and worse. Do you see clear air turbulence being a part of that? Do you see other factors that are coming up? Like what, I guess the question could be is like, what's your biggest worry for the next 10, 15, 20 years with weather and aviation?
Well, I think besides all the things we just talked about, intensification of severe events, so it just makes it harder to land and take off, and there'll be more closures of airports and those things. But there's some pretty interesting studies down there. There's one in 2017 by a guy named Paul Williams, where he suggested that in the wintertime, so in the wintertime in the North Atlantic, especially the long haul routes across the Atlantic, it's kind of a high time right now for clear air turbulence. He suggests that by 2050, I think is what he said, by that time frame, but growing up to that time, there'll be 150% more severe clear air turbulence, more space covered by clear air turbulence than there is today. And if that becomes true, and it makes sense, I mean, he did it with a study that just ran climate models, basically. And basically what he's saying is that, like you said, there's more intense lows, there's more intense hurricanes, there's more intense winter storms. That intensity goes all the way up in the atmosphere. It's not just at the ground. And so your jet streams end up being stronger. The wind shears end up being stronger, which generate the turbulence. And so it all makes sense. And he suggested that, on average, 150% more turbulence, severe turbulence at that time frame. That's significant. That means it'll expose airspace for people, for planes to fly over time. And that's kind of scary, honestly, because there's enough cat right now that causes inefficiencies in the system. Just think if we, 1.5 times that more.
I'm not trying to discredit a study or anything, but is there ever any chance that maybe he loaded anything wrong or anything was going through? Or are these studies pretty rock solid? There's going to be someone out there that just goes, I don't trust studies, all that kind of stuff, but just like fully getting out there, are the studies, do they have a good track of being correct? I mean, I know they are studies, so they're not going to be future proof, but what's your thought on that?
Well, I think all the climate studies are really hard. I mean, we have trouble forecasting 10 days in advance. How can you forecast 10 years or even 30 years in advance? So it's notional. It's done scientifically credibly. I think there's it's fraught with errors though. But I think there's definitely it's not. This one study sits on the shoulders of thousands of other climate studies too that suggest that there will be more severe weather, that there will be stronger events, which means there'll be more stronger jet streams, which means there'll be stronger shear. So it all kind of makes sense, common sense. But you have to kind of put I don't want to say grain of salt, but it's well done research. It has a good conclusion that makes sense with everything else we're learning. So I wouldn't. I think whether it's 150% or 100% or 20% or 200%, I think we probably don't know that today.